So the whole world seems to be rejoicing at the news that Tom Hardy has been cast as Venom in the upcoming film. But I'm here to tell you why you need to calm down a bit and take a step back, because it's not good news. Well, it's good news, but it's not the great news that you are expecting. So, let me tell you why I'm not excited for a Venom film. As a Spider-Man fan, I know where Venom comes from, how he gets involved into the Spider-Man lore, and there's no way they can do it on film, so I'm kind of worried. First off, we need to take into account how Venom comes to be in the Marvel Universe. Now, there are 3 or 4 ways that Venom comes into contact in the Marvel Universe with Spider-Man, and we're going to discuss them right here. So first, let's go with the classic 616 universe and how Venom becomes a part of the Spider-Man lore. In 1984, there was a tie-in called Secret Wars. And all the big Marvel superheroes go off and fight, I think it's Battle World, and they fight each other. Or they don't fight each other, they fight alongside each other against the villains, and they're all being played as pawns in a game by the Beyonder, who's this omnipresent, omniscient, whatever kind of omni-being, omnicorp being. And he's basically playing a game of chess, heroes versus villains. Well, on the planet, Spider-Man's suit gets destroyed. And he notices that other heroes have gone to this machine and put their suit in, and the suit comes out repaired. So Spider-Man goes off to try to do the same thing, but he goes to the wrong machine, and this black substance covers his body and creates the black symbiote costume that we all know and I love. So the Secret Wars ends, and he comes back to Earth, and he discovers that the suit is living. And at first it seems great, but then he starts to have trouble. You know, he's waking up really tired. I think he slept a whole day. And then he comes to realize that the suit takes him out at night and wears him and goes out and web swings and fights crime and does all this shit. And Peter Parker's asleep. He has no clue what's going on. But the symbiote is doing that. It becomes attached to him. Well, he goes to Reed Richards and learns what it is, and they shoot it with a sonic ray, and he loses it. Well, thankfully he loses it. It leaves him. Well, Spider-Man goes back to the red and blue suit, but the symbiote breaks out, and it finds him. So, in Web of Spider-Man #1, we see Peter Parker getting ready to go out, do some web swinging, some crime fighting, and he's putting on the red suit, and all of a sudden, the black suit takes over and jumps out the window, and they go fight crime. At the end of the issue, which is the iconic part, he's in the bell tower. And if you've seen Spider-Man 3, opinions aside, good or bad, you know how it ends. Well, not ends, but you know how he ends his bond with the black suit. The bell tolls, the sonic vibrations cause the suit to run off of him. But as the bell is tolling, the symbiote kind of drags him away slightly to protect him, and then it leaves him. So, that's pretty much the end of the symbiote suit with Spider-Man. But he does go on to wear a black costume. It's cloth. And it looks just like the symbiote suit, but it's not the symbiote suit. So, let's jump forward a few years, and all of a sudden, Peter Parker is standing on a train platform when someone pushes him on the tracks. He escapes, and he's really not too shaken that he almost died. What scares him is that his spider sense doesn't go off. So, it happens a few more times. I think he's climbing up a wall and a hand just pushes him off the building, and stuff like that happens maybe 2 or 3 more times. Well, then we get to Todd McFarlane's second issue, Spider-Man number 299, and the first actual appearance of Venom is shown. Venom breaks into Peter Parker and Mary Jane's apartment. Mary Jane thinks it's Peter waiting for her, and we get the big reveal that it's actually Venom. So, in issue 300, Spider-Man and Venom fight, and though I'm not a big Venom fan, this is a great issue. I'm not a Todd McFarlane fan either, but the art's great. It's got a great story. And basically, Venom and Spider-Man fight. Venom defeats Spider-Man, takes him to the same bell tower that Spider-Man left the symbiote at, and you finally learn why Venom hates Spider-Man. Because the symbiote was attached, Peter rejected it. It's like an angry, vengeful girlfriend. Now, why am I telling you this whole story? Well, I'll tell you right now. There is no motivation for Spider-Man and Venom to ever fight outside of Spider-Man trying to protect X, Y, and Z. The emotional aspect of the character is being jumped over just to give you a film based on a popular character, and it's not a good thing. Venom needs a lot of build. Like, for example, let's say I'm making a Spider-Man franchise. I'm signed on for 10 movies. Because if I was a director, that would be like my dream project. So I'm signed on for these 10 Spider-Man movies. The first trilogy may be a Goblin-esque trilogy with some Doc Ock and Lizard, some classic villains thrown in. If I was going to really include Venom, I wouldn't do a proper Venom film until the 6th Spider-Man film. I know you're thinking, oh my god, how long do we have to wait? Well, if the first trilogy is kind of about Spider-Man becoming Spider-Man, then the second trilogy ends with him fighting Venom, and then that third trilogy would be Venom and Spider-Man coping as friends, blah, 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 to fight Carnage, but that's neither here nor there. My point is, you're taking away the core emotional aspect of Venom. He serves no purpose to the story. Anything else is just convoluted. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, it doesn't matter if they do the Secret Wars and all this shit. And I agree. They don't have to. They can't. The only way I could see this making sense is if during Infinity War, Spider-Man somehow comes into contact with the black suit and becomes the symbiote Spider-Man, brings that back to Earth, and then Tom Hardy gets, the stuff. But those movies come out the same year. Actually, it couldn't happen like that. I believe this Venom movie comes out in 2018, or maybe 2019, and that just wouldn't work in the timeline. But if you take out the Secret War and the off-planet stuff, let's go the Spider-Man animated series route, which everyone seems to love. If you go the Spider-Man animated series approach, J. Jonah Jameson's son, John Jameson, is an astronaut. He's an astronaut in all forms of Spider-Man media. In the series, he comes back to Earth with this thing called Prometheus X, or Promethium X. It's this substance. Well, Spider-Man is trying to save John Jameson because his shuttle has lost control, and as he rescues him, he comes into contact with the Rhino, who is stealing the Promethium X from John Jameson. Well, Spider-Man gets defeated, thrown into the river, and this black goo gets on him. That black goo happens to be the symbiote, so Spider-Man wakes up, hanging on the side of a building, in the black costume. So if you need to take that approach, that's fine. I can understand not going into outer space and all that stuff. It's a little much. Understandable. But the thing that needs to happen, and even if we go to the movie approach, where it literally just lands on Earth from a meteor, finds Spider-Man, and covers his body at night, he wakes up in the suit, just like in the fucking movie and the TV show. If you need a Venom movie, you need to have the symbiote interact with Spider-Man, and you need to have Spider-Man reject the symbiote, thus causing the jealousy and the rage and the anger. That's why the symbiote has the face it does. When it's on Spider-Man, it's just a blank mask, black, with the big white eyes and all that shit. Beautiful costume. I think a fan designed it. And originally the black and white suit was black and red. Either way, I think it's one of the best designed superheroes. It's very minimal, it's perfect. I love the symbiote costume. You need Spider-Man to interact with it. You can't not. So them announcing Tom Hardy is great because Tom Hardy's a great actor, but great actors with shit make shit, okay? Maybe George Clooney wasn't the George Clooney we know now, but George Clooney played Batman in a shitty movie, and he's a shit Batman. If he had a great script, he could have been a great Batman. Same with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy, phenomenal actor. Yeah, Bane's a little shitty in parts, the voice, and his motivation's a little weak, but you know what? There you go. That's my example right there. You can take a great Tom Hardy and have his characters do dumb things and a few slight dumb tweaks, and you kind of ruin it. Bane's really a joke in hindsight. From the Nolan trilogy, all you kind of look back on with reverence is the Heath Ledger Joker, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but I understand the accomplishment that character was. I think you're going to have the same thing with Tom Hardy as Venom, because if they're going to go the Agent Venom route, you're going to turn a lot of people off because they don't know what Agent Venom is. Okay, and for those who don't know, Flash Thompson, the bully from Spider-Man. If you've seen the first movie, he's the guy that tries to fight him in the hallway, and he's never seen from again in the rest of the Sam Raimi movies. But in the comics, Flash tormented Peter Parker in high school. When it came to college, they became friends. Now, during their entire time knowing each other, the one thing that the audience knew was Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Well, Flash Thompson looked up to Spider-Man, so we as an audience found it funny that Flash Thompson looked up to the guy he used to beat up every day at school. He inspired Spider-Man so much that he joined the military and he tried to become a war hero, and in the process, he lost his legs. So, the government experiments on him, and they do this thing called the Project Venom experiment, or whatever it's called. He becomes Agent Venom. He wears a symbiote, he has guns, he does all this shit. Cool concept, alright, comic. Not my favorite, not the worst. But, again, without Spider-Man as your key thing, you can't really make a good Venom movie, you know? Like, if you're trying to make an anti-hero Venom franchise, why does the symbiote have the powers of Spider-Man? Ask yourself that. He shouldn't. That creature only replicates what Peter Parker knows internally. It can read his mind. It can do all these crazy things. It's really a part of him. And that's where all the Venom shit comes from, you know? And then when it spawns Carnage, that's why Carnage does and looks a certain way too. It all stems from Spider-Man. I don't think Sony knows how to do that. I don't think Sony knows how to make a good film anymore, you know? There's a rumor that they're going to make a Masters of the Universe movie without Skeletor. Well, when you say He-Man, the first thing I think of after He-Man, and that stupid Hey Ya, What's Going On song, is Skeletor. Well, you cannot separate a hero and his greatest villain for the sake of making more money down the road. Skeletor and He-Man, Spider-Man and Venom. You need them together. So, it's great to get excited, and I'm not knocking you for being excited. What I am knocking you for is thinking that this is going to be so faithful and great because you have Tom Hardy. Look, Tom Hardy's great. I said it before. I'll say it again. Tom Hardy's great. But can't save everything. You got to understand, these actors don't control the film the way you think they do. They sign a contract, they agree to terms, the director has some control, but ultimately the studio has the most control. And when you got douchebags like Avi Arad and Amy Pascal and Tom Rothman and all these other people that you've learned about their true colors thanks to the Sony email leak a couple years ago, you get worried, you know? And if you don't know those names, go look up the Midnight's Edge videos and they will tell you all the information you need to know about Sony and their behind-the-scenes bullshit. But back to Venom. Knowing the bullshit and knowing the lack of reverence they have for the source material, I'm not excited. You know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe pays respects to all the source material. That's why those films make billions of dollars. Because they're good on multiple fronts. They're not just a good movie. They appeal to superhero fans. They appeal to general audiences. They appeal to children. They appeal to older people. They just do everything right. The Sony Marvel movies don't, you know? I'm sitting here on the internet making a 15-minute video on how much I love Spider-Man and shit, and complaining about it, but they're losing me. Somebody who's so invested. So, I'm not saying I'm more important than everybody else. Okay, that's what I'm saying. You don't have to agree, but you should. All I'm saying is, if you're losing me, somebody who's so invested already, that's going to give them so much already, if you're losing me, I think you're kind of doomed. You know, Spider-Man 3, not a great movie, not a terrible movie. Amazing Spider-Man, terrible movies. That goes to show you what Sony wants to make in a Spider-Man movie, in a Venom movie. So, it's nice to be pumped, it's nice to be excited, and cool. But just temper your expectations and understand that if you go in... You know what? I'm going to quote The Room. Probably the shittiest movie ever made, but I love it for all the wrong reasons. You know, Tommy says about, don't plan, it may not come out right. Well, don't get too hyped for this movie, because it may not come out right. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. You know, I appreciate all the new listeners that have come to this channel. We have like 1,000 new people now, and that's awesome, you know. It's cool to see names that I don't know on our channel commenting, telling me what you think. So, do me a favor. Comment below and tell me what your thoughts are on this Venom movie. Are you excited for a Venom movie? Are you excited for more things in the Spider-Man universe that don't feature Venom? Or do you feel like me and you like the idea that there's going to be a Venom movie one day, but you think this is the wrong direction? Are you Are you worried that Sony's going to fuck up again? Whatever you may be feeling, just tell me down in the comments below, and I'll read them on a later video, you know? Make sure you go over and check out the other video that's taken off, the Captain America Marvel begging you to buy their books video. That's doing hot numbers, and you know, if you're a big fan of comics and shit, I think you'll hear a lot of stuff you want to hear about, so check that out. As always, we have the podcast, World Class Bullshitters, which will be back tomorrow night. We are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. For those who don't know, May 25th, 1977 was the day that Star Wars was first released in theaters. So, we are going to eulogize that film. Well, that's not dead, so not eulogize is not the right word. We're going to praise that film. We're going to bring it up on a level that we normally don't get to talk about. So the whole episode is dedicated to A New Hope, as well as the news and all that other stuff. So make sure you check it out. And speaking of eulogies, earlier in the week, I released a video on the death of Roger Moore. Maybe you don't know him, but you definitely know the character he played, James Bond. Me personally, I was a little upset by the news of his death. So, if you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on James Bond and what he means to me, check that out. Also, yesterday, I released a video on Zack Snyder and why I'm so happy that he's removed from the DCEU. And before you get all in a huff about it, not making fun of his dead daughter. So, sorry if you have a morbid sense of humor. We'll save that for the podcast.